Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Archontou here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. So grateful to have some time with you today. It's Wednesday. Yes, it's Wednesday. I have to think about that sometimes. But we're so happy to be with you again. And as you know, YWTV is all about bringing folks together to inspire, engage, and educate. And today is no different. We're so excited to have some youth leaders with us to talk about civil rights, social action, social justice, and some amazing work that's being done in our area. So with that, we know that students have been a powerful driver of social change all the way back to the civil rights movement. And more than 60 years later, it is no different. We are continuing to see students be part of a call to action for racial injustice and equality. And we see the growing movement of youth and their work against racism, which has been wonderful. Now more than ever, high school students in the United States have become increasingly vocal about issues like police brutality, gun violence, and racist incidents in their schools and in their communities in order to make positive change. As a former youth activist myself, I'm so excited to meet and talk with these young people. Here we've got some students that are connected to Northern Valley Regional High School in Old Tappan, and they are members of the nonprofit group Valley Speaks Out. The goal of this nonprofit is to facilitate open dialogue at their school and beyond, and they are working to foster healthy communication around bias. And so now I would like to introduce you to, let's see, we've got Taylor, we've got Mia, and we've got Rita with us this morning. And I'd like to thank all three of you for joining us. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. And I know that you're in the midst of virtual learning and all kinds of other activities in this time that we're living in. So we're grateful that you could step away and be with us this morning to share with our Facebook community a little bit. Maybe we could start with each of you just telling a little bit about yourself, maybe your age, yourself, and I think it's great because we're hoping other young people are watching this and we want them to understand that, you all are like all other youth and that, they can join this effort as well. So Rita, please start.
Sure. Okay. So my name is Rita Quraishi. I have lived in this valley in Northville for almost my entire life. I moved from Tenafly when I was very young. So I'm very accustomed to living here. What else? So I'm pursuing a career in public health, specifically health disparities. And I think part of the reason that I feel comfortable going into that field is because of the work that I've been able to do here and the environment I've grown up in. We live in a very privileged valley, but we kind of exist as a micro minority. I was the only hijab wearing student my entire life living here. And, we have a student body that's, almost 1,000 kids, maybe more. So it was definitely, it was alienating to be in that environment. But it definitely gives me the passion and the drive and the empathy to make sure that other minorities don't face the same problems I did, the same ostracization and the same, unequal treatment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Rita. Thank you for sharing that as well. All right. Mia, do you want to jump in?
I'll go. Hi, I'm Mia Chu. I'm 18 years old. This fall is going to be my first year at college. I'm thinking about majoring in biology. I'm really into, the STEM field. I'm really passionate about education though as well. So that's also one of my choices. I think that's one of the reasons I kind of got into activism, because I see how activism can live inside a classroom. And I, as growing up in the Valley, I can see how, racism really does, or bias manifests in the classroom. And I kind of, when all this kind of came up into light this year, I kind of took it to heart, and I was like, thinking about my future and thinking about how I can, affect the next generation of kids. And, me being an Asian American, I can see how I can, perhaps make an impact for people that have been through the same experiences as me. So
Mhm.
something like that.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Mia. And Taylor, thank you for joining us as well.
Of course. Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm 18 and I'm going to the School of Rutgers for civil engineering. I've lived in the Valley for the last 8 years, moving from Dumont first, and I had lived with my dad in like different parts of Bergen County also at times in like Hackensack and Patterson, Lodi, Bergenfield. And there's just something different about the atmosphere in the Valley. Not only have I personally felt safer, but I've also felt more singled out because aside from Nia, who I wish she was here today, also along with Rita and Mia and um, I was one of about 5 Black students in my graduating class. So it was very easy to be singled out and also at the same time be the whole representation of what the Black community is supposed to act like to a lot of um, the white people in my school. So really taking up like standing out and speaking out to a lot of the injustices was originally really hard because it felt like the people that I went to school with didn't really care because they didn't feel really affected by what's going on because it's not something that they normally face. So I'm genuinely really happy that Mia, Rita, and our other members of VSO, Marielle, Nia, and Aaron, were able to be by my side and like help speak out against the Valley.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you all for sharing a little bit about yourself. I'm so grateful again that you could make the time today to talk with us about the work you're doing. And it's interesting to hear how your life experiences helped shape your involvement in Valley Speaks Out. So tell us a little bit about how that got started at your school. And, we can talk a little bit too about how it's evolved.
Mhm. I'm going to let Taylor take this one because she really got the ball rolling with, getting an organization up on its feet. So go ahead.
So it's actually a little bit of a funny story how it all started. It initially started with back in math class, I really want to say, where me and Rita, we had been in school with each other like since middle school, but we weren't really that close. I was friends with Nia, she was friends with Nia, and we always like goofed around together. Um, Eventually one day after we went into quarantine and lockdown after George Floyd was um, had his knee and into the neck, um, Rita and Nia had held a silent protest. And I really just love the idea of that. The next like few days, I went back to Dumont to go like walk with my uncle in a protest there, and I remembered like Juneteenth is coming up. I was like, we need to do something. I don't care what it is, but we need to hold a protest. We need to do something. Next thing we know, I'm rushing to text Nia, Rita, and I'm just like, we need to do something. We have to get this together. Like, what do we properly need to do? Um, and so um as we're getting things together, a very famous contributor reached out to us and he was like, oh, I heard you guys are doing this. I want to help you guys. What do you guys have? Like, do you guys have like an Instagram or something that we can reach out to? And we were in a panic. We were like, we have none of that set up. We didn't think it was gonna be this big. So then we set up the Instagram page, which is Valley period speaks period out on Instagram. And originally, like that was just it. We were just gonna hold our Juneteenth celebration, and we didn't think much of it afterwards until I was like, our name is Valley Speaks Out. Let's be a nice safe place and a nice platform for the students in the Valley to speak out. And as the account got bigger, we started talking about like things directly contributing in the school, like the Board of Ed and how we can help them and do education reform. And that's kind of where Mia, Marielle, and Aaron came in, because we were doing a lot of work with them. And it took a little bit after we actually finished, or we were almost finished with our reform for the school on education, what the school can do, not that they have to do, but like we were giving them suggestions on what we can do, that we asked Mia and Marielle and Aaron to formally join us on our board.
Yeah.
And that's really how all 6 of us came together via BSO.
That's great. That's wonderful to hear the evolution. So, I appreciate you sharing a little bit how it evolved. Can you tell me a little bit about any resistance or obstacles that you had as you were coming together and as you now are, have been together? And I'm curious too, are students and faculty at your school open to hearing your, your messages and, what you're bringing forth?
Yeah. I think like we've actually interacted with a lot of underclassmen at MVOT, and they read our kind of reform proposal, and it's almost like they feel like inspired by it. So I think that's one of like the things I'm really proud of, that of my group and all of that. With the faculty members, there is a little resistance, but that is just on the side of accountability for some of the acts that have happened in the past. We hope that we can be proactive in what happens in the future, maybe avoid these kind of conflicts. But there has been a lot of situations where it seems like a lot of the students felt at a loss with some of their cases. So far, it seems that community leaders have been open to conversations with us, which we have been so grateful for. Many calls, many hard conversations. I think each of us can individually speak on the difficult conversations that we've had with a lot of admin. I think we've talked about school admin versus Board of Ed admin. That's a battle that we had to navigate through in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have anything else? Do you have anything to add, Rita?
At the end of the day, our school exists at a very concrete power structure. We are the students, and there are our elders, the people above us who teach us and who put in all this time to help us grow. And there's a base understanding that they know more than us, right? And so when you have students coming up to them, telling them, this is what's been happening under your nose, you have kids screaming the N-word in the hallways, you have kids bullying each other based on the color of their skin, blatant Asian discrimination, blatant Islamophobia, blatant racism, you've even got, members of, large positions of power, higher positions of power, committing these same acts. And these are the same people that are deciding our curriculum, making the decision on our HIB cases. HIB is harassment, intimidation, bullying. It's the way that our school reports any instance of bullying. You've got people in positions of power who are making decisions for students, but not with their best intentions, especially students of color. And so, when we had students coming up and telling them that, there was initial resistance. We did not mean to tell anybody how to do their job, but, we're referred to by the administration and by the board as stakeholders, in that we have skin in the game. So it's honestly, it really was about time that they listened to what their students of color had to say. It is a white majority school, and some might argue that, maybe the reforms that we're pushing for are only going to benefit about 10%, 20% of the student body. But it means so much to us if we can just help one kid. And, it was too late for us at that point. We were seniors, we were graduated. There was nothing that the reforms we were doing could help us. But we wanted to make sure that no other student that looked like us and that was in our position ever had to go through what we went through. And so that's why we pushed so hard. And, we did have to make some concessions on our part. We're seen as aggressive and loud and uncompromising and uneducated as students. So we had to frame ourselves in the most appealing way possible. And that to appeal to white students. We had to say, yeah, you need more diverse staff, but that's just going to help white students, get acclimated to people of color. Or, yeah, you need a diverse curriculum, but that's just going to help white students who, end up in a more diverse workplace. So we did have to frame our things in a more palatable mindset. But at the end of the day, it got the work done that we needed. And, we got invited by the Board of Education to serve on the ad hoc committee that's actually making tangible change in the student body and in the policies that run our school. So we're very grateful for that.
I also want
I'm sorry. Continue, Taylor, please.
Another kind of pushback that we got happened on our VSO page. As I said, we had turned it into a place where students felt free to speak out. We have a Google form and they fill it out completely anonymous, and we just ask for their school for reference and graduating year. And a lot of the posts actually do get like support, but there are a few controversial ones that a lot of people tend to argue. We have students that say like, this never happened, the board would never let this happen. It's like, here's a student telling us firsthand what they experienced, what they witnessed.
Their vulnerability.
Yeah, and they're like a few students, not to say every student, but few students will go there and they'll like tear down and be like, this isn't true. And sometimes other commenters will attack like people who are like being supportive, like being like, I also witnessed this, I felt this too. And it's one of the tougher, aside from dealing with the board, I want to say, because it has such an emotional impact and aspect of it, I feel like that's one of the tougher things that we've had to witness on our VSO page and like interaction with the community, because that's very, very direct. It's like, even though it's an anonymous post, we like our VSO page is very unbiased. Like, if you tell us how you're feeling, we wanted to hear you and we wanted to create a safe space for you. So again, on our personal accounts on Instagram, we will go and we will reaffirm like our stance, and it's like, we're here for support. And there's been times where me, Rita, and Nia, we've been personally attacked for being supportive. And I want to say that that's definitely one of the more difficult things,
Right.
as like you're trying to bring peace and like an understanding.
Right.
It's such like a backlash, so direct. It's tolling sometimes.
We've had to toe the line between opening dialogue between opinions we don't agree with at all and opinions we do agree with, and giving them a seat at the table. And just as much as we would only be stooping down to others' level if we didn't give opposing viewpoints a seat at the table, right? And so we've gotten a lot of backlash for even acknowledging the existence of those opinions. And a lot of people feel that you're giving negative opinions a platform, you're pushing the movement back. But at the end of the day, like, we don't want to preach to the choir. We want to actually change people's minds. And if we started shutting people down based on oh, we don't agree with you, like, that's a very conservative opinion, I don't agree with you, that's not going to get any of the progress that we're hoping for. And then also I think a lot of people feel that because we're such a small community and a very close-knit community, that there are no secrets between us, and that if racism happened, that it didn't happen under our noses, that people whispered it to one person and it spread throughout the whole school eventually, or that it got on social media, something like that. And while there are very public instances of racism on social media, that we have, at the end of the day, like, people of color in the school have learned how to get very good at keeping their trauma to themselves. We feel like a burden at every other corner. And so at this point, it's just picking and choosing our battles. Do you go to administration about the kid who called you, a slur, or do you go to the administration about, the weeks of, badgering questions you're getting about your religion or your race, or your hair? So it's just, it's picking your battles.
And it's upsetting to hear that you actually have to do that, because that shouldn't be that way. So many questions have popped in my head as you and Taylor were talking just now, though. And one is, I would imagine that there's a lot of other students in other school districts around the country, and probably even, within our smaller circle in Bergen County, that are feeling that they want to mobilize and come together, that they have some kind of core group like yours that met because of some experiences, and wanted to evolve and bring forth some type of action group. And you're sharing a lot of very real challenges that you've had with your administration. And now you all have graduated and kind of are looking back at this. And as we often say, hindsight's 2020, foresight sometimes a little cloudy. So from where you're standing now, looking back and talking to young people that are currently in high school, and maybe they're a little earlier in high school than you were when you all mobilized, and they are thinking about bringing forth a group, what's some advice, what's some inspiration that you would share to them to help navigate some of the resistance that you experienced with the administration in terms of moving forward? Are there any lessons that you've learned? Obviously, you shared some of them just now about you kind of had to learn to pick and choose what to go to them about. But, anything else that you would share with them to help prepare them to navigate some of these issues, and in hopes that maybe they would have an easier time integrating their organization into the school?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important, at least what I experienced, it's really easy to be overpowered by such authority figures when you're like a student, underclassman, still in high school. And I kind of got discouraged, maybe perhaps in the beginning, by maybe some of the things that they were telling us and saying. I would just say determination, endurance is so important as an activist. It's hard sometimes and you need a break, but at the end of the day, having a goal is so important. I also think that if you're going to be working, it's best to work with people maybe that you maybe you don't necessarily agree with, but also have some kind of, you grow some kind of relationship or bond with them. Working with these girls and the rest of my members, it was so beneficial actually getting to know them and sitting down with them and listening to the stories and understanding, my place in their world and their life, because there's always, you have to know your boundaries and how you want to interact with people. I also think it's hard to remember respect when garnering conversations like this with people, because sometimes they don't give you the amount of respect that you necessarily give them back. I think it's always a good idea to have a firm stance and stand up for yourself, but there are times where we have to give a certain level of respect to someone, but we have noticed that we are the ones accommodating most of the time. I think Rita and Taylor can, know about this. We have to be the ones, changing to their schedule, or, as Rita said, making it more feasible for them to digest and all that. It's just that's why I think my advice is for younger activists, to be kind of going with it.
Great, that's great advice.
I would say it's so easy for high school kids specifically to prioritize, reaching out to the most number of people and, having the biggest turnout. That was definitely, one of my priorities. I'm ashamed to admit it. When we first started, I wanted our events to touch the largest crowd possible. I wanted to I wanted to make sure that we had the turnout that I felt was justified by the amount of effort we were putting in. But at the end of the day, even if 5 people show up to your protest or your organization, your demonstration, or, at the end of the day, it's those people that you want in the movement. It's those people that you want to mobilize. It's those people that you want to reach out to. And so I would just say that for students that are thinking about it, but maybe are a little bit hesitant because they're worried that they won't get the support in the student body or from the administration or even from their community. Because I know a lot of the students that we've talked with live in very conservative communities where maybe 5 people show up to their demonstrations, But at the end of this, sometimes those are the most powerful demonstrations that I've been to. There's a man named Ainsworth Minot in Englewood who organizes protests every single weekend. Every Saturday, we've been to his protest, me, Nia, Taylor. And sometimes they get less than a dozen people, and sometimes they get 40, 50 people, And it's always been, regardless of how many people show up, Ainsworth has the same exact energy. He's still so passionate about the cause. And that kind of taught me that it doesn't matter how many people you're speaking to, as long as you're speaking. So, yeah.
And the last thing that I kind of want to add is it's very important that you can't second doubt what you're doing. You can't doubt it at all. A very big aspect of, speaking out is you will be facing people who want to tear you down. They will almost do anything that they can to tear you down. And you have to stay strong. Mia already touched on it. Like, you have to be strong. You have to hold your stance. You have to hold your ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that something that really goes well with that is, believing in, like, knowing yourself and appreciating your own worth before you can really go out there and say, I matter.
Right.
You can't be saying and screaming like, I matter and this matters, when you yourself don't entirely believe in it. It's not to say like you can't believe it because you're not feeling it, you're not experiencing it, but like, you can't preach what you don't necessarily believe in,
Right. If
And
you take like the fake it till you make it stance, you're going to burn out very quickly.
No,
Yeah.
for sure. That's why you have to bring, activism isn't just like a job. It's like literally a lifestyle. Like, you have to integrate it so deeply into how you act and react. And I always know that whenever I act and always I think of my members in this group and what it stands for. And you really have to create a solid ideology at first. And I wanted to mention, like, Taylor and Rita wouldn't, like, they had mutual friends, but they weren't friends. So I say, like, reach out to the passion, not like friendship or people. Like, it's always important to, how Rita said, like, reach out to people that will show up. I know she said this many times, will show up for you, will show up for the cause. And it's so important to find people, good support system.
Well, I love everything that you all shared, and you clearly are wise way past your years, because all the activists I know that are way into adulthood and have been doing it for years share a lot of similar advice when talking about how to stay the long haul and how to balance some of the challenges. So thank you. So a question for you. I know that your group has gotten very involved, even outside of your school, and you've linked with other community groups. Can you tell us a little bit about how you kind of broadened your interactions and your network, and how that kind of created strength and impact for your work?
The biggest part in doing that and networking and reaching out was actually attending the events that these people were putting on, right? As much as, we invest ourselves in the administrative aspect of Valley Speaks Out, getting the posts together, planning events, things like that, we needed to be on the ground supporting our fellow organizations. And so we were going to events, across the county, showing our support for these people. We went to Ridgewood for Black Lives Matter, hosted some amazing events, and they've been dealing with a lot of crazy instances of racism. They have a really abusive police system, and it's definitely a very perfect example of what happens to people of color in a white majority neighborhood. So Ridgewood's been doing some amazing events. Englewood, as I mentioned, they've been doing some amazing events, and we've met some really great students and adults alike there. And Cresco for BLM has also been doing some really impactful work. And I know Taylor's been talking to Dumont for BLM. So it's so impactful for us to realize that our problems are not our own problems. It's not just a Northern Valley thing. It's every white majority town has the same underlying, cracks in their foundation. And so part of it has been definitely showing that we fully support their efforts. We advertise them at every chance we get. And we love hearing from other student activists, because they're going through the same struggles that we've gone through. And if we can help them in any way possible, with, at least, when it comes to, how do you reach out to your Board of Education? How do you reach out to administrators? How do you, get an opportunity to sit down at the table? How do you stay respectful? How do you get them to listen to you? We've been able to share some of that advice with people, and it's definitely helped us realize that we're not alone in this.
And I could tell like a little anecdote of how like we even got the attention of the admin, how they realized it was a problem at first. It's just like floods of emails from alum, from current students were sent to the school admin's way, specifically, you know, our principal, vice principals. Like it was just paragraphs and paragraphs from parents, students. It was in town, even town members. It was just that's what really garnered the attention, but it was really a crazy like how many people had to email until the school had to address it. And now it's like, now with this open door, we've used that at the beginning of quarantine, we've used that to open loads of conversation. Now, you know, Rita and Taylor and Nia, they're going to all these protests, they're meeting all these other groups, and it's really amazing how we're expanding our range of, you know, social, and then like we can more opportunities to be made and more change to be done.
Yeah, that's a really good you know, it's good advice and good for folks to hear that on every level, no matter what age you are, sharing your experience, putting it in writing, making a phone call, sending an email, sending a letter, whatever it is really important and impactful, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that really makes change, is putting things on the record and in the mass, you know, in that way. You know, we see that a lot with adults, that once people get into office, they just kind of sit back and expect that whoever they elected is going to just somehow do what they want without actually hearing from them. Right. And so we have to remind adults all the time, you know, that they, you know, our elected officials work for us, right? Once we put them in office, they work for us, and that they're not going to know what we want them to do unless we tell them. So it's good that you have already started to kind of create that experience and that practice, you know, at your age, because it really is something that needs to be carried into adulthood, for sure, in terms of getting messaging out. All needs to, you know, all needs to be shared, for sure. So you're referencing this kind of interaction with other student groups and how it's helped you to be able to manage some of the challenges that you experience. If there's students that are watching and they want to connect to a network of students out there, are there groups that you joined, or websites that you frequent, or Instagram, or, you know, social media sites that kind of you spend a lot of time on, just to be able to have that interaction, that you would recommend to students that may not have a group like yours in their school, but want to kind of start to get into that world?
I would say that a lot of our outreach happened through our Instagram page, where we got connections and people were seeing what we're doing. We would get direct messages in our DMs being like, hey, like, as I think you're good friends with her, Patches Magaro, she had actually reached out to us from our Instagram page. Another person who reached out to us was, it was Sam Oswald. She actually helped us set up this meeting. We got in connection with her from the town borough, from when we were making our Juneteenth event. So I would say keep an eye out for your connections. They're not going to like come. Oh, I'm not gonna say that they're not gonna come. They're not, you don't fully have to sought them out for them to come to you. Like our connections with the different communities in our area were through our Instagram account. And as Rita mentioned, it was from us being there. You have to physically go out and do, and maybe you don't necessarily need to look for them, but if you start something yourself with a group of friends, if you don't feel comfortable doing it on your own, like that's how you're going to make your network and your connections. If people see what you're doing, that's how like you're gonna make your connections and your network. That's how we did ours, basically.
It helped having a platform for us. You know, that's how people saw us, they knew us. You know, we were telling people like, hey, we're part of Valley Speaks Out, and so people were able to find us. If you're, you know, an individual activist and you don't have a platform like that, an organization like that, 100% you can still make amazing connections. You just have to be unafraid to reach out and seek those out, you know. Sometimes we were getting recognized at protests and we had people reaching out to us. So that was one way. You need to actually go to those protests to get, you know, the connection that you need. But also, you know, we were hounding people for their contact information when we wanted to reach out to them. Mia has been amazing at getting us some contacts that we've been desperate for, because we want to sit at the table with these people and hear their perspective. So Mia was able to get us contacts with the Korean Parents Association. And that was so integral for us because they've been such a support system. And then also, you know, sometimes we'll just walk up to the organizers of protests and we'll say, hi, this is my name. This is who I am. I'm super interested in what you're doing. You know, is there anything I can do to help? Can I promote your event? Or can you just keep me in the loop about other events? Can you connect me with other people? And then what happened from there is, you know, that person introduces you to 2 other people and you build a network that way, right? And then also I would say following accounts on Instagram that have been so religious about updating their followers about events like Justice for George Floyd, New Jersey, pages like that, they're consistently updating. And so, you know, all the resources are out there. I know there's also, you know, you can use Facebook to look for events in your community. You just have to be unafraid to go out and get them and understand that, you know, it's not at all a burden for you to reach out to people. As some students sometimes feel like, you know, especially in our generation, we feel like we inconvenience people. And so it's really important that students understand that everyone wants to get connected at these events. Everyone wants a support system. They want to build that network. And so when you ask someone for their number, like, hey, you know, I've seen you at a couple protests, can I get your number? It's not at all weird. It's actually, it's so smart, and it's going to help you in the long run.
Well, that's great advice. And I also want to thank one of our viewers, Elizabeth Bennett, who has been adding into the comments some groups that she's recommending that folks can connect to get information. You know, I think that you ladies just said some, you know, really important things. And even Taylor's comment earlier about knowing yourself is so important, because, you know, once you really are connected to what's important to you and what your value system is, that will help you link to, you know, what Rita is saying about finding the groups, whether it's through Instagram or other ways that, you know, you have a shared, you know, areas of shared importance, so that you can band together, reach out, make those connections, so that if you're not attached to a group like you all are, that it'll help you find your peeps so that you can connect to them. So I think I just made myself sound old because no one your age says peeps, right? Okay.
We'll start using peeps. Yeah.
But it's okay, because I am, and I love talking with you, and it's very very energizing, very inspiring, very exciting, wonderful to hear and see what you're doing, watching it unfold in the community. And even so excited to be watching the trajectory that the 3 of you and the others in your group as you evolve going forward. Because as I shared with you, so much of the work that I did when I was younger in terms of kind of civic responsibility and social activism really shaped who I am today, and my professional goals, and the choices I've made with my family. And I know firsthand that you know, this is so meaningful for every step of your life ahead, what you've done here. So I'm just thrilled and excited, and I appreciate you sharing, because I do know that there's so many youth that are out there that want to be involved, but maybe haven't found their group, you know, to be able to help. So with that, as we're kind of slowly winding down, although I could talk to you ladies all day, and this will not be our last conversation. For those of you watching today, some of these ladies and, you know, other youth were involved in a program we did a few weeks ago that was a wonderful opportunity, where they shared some of their poetry and their song and their words as you know, for some healing and some perspective on these important issues. We'll put a link to that here so that you can also see some of the amazing work that these ladies and others have done. I like to close our conversations with some inspiration, and I'd love for each of you to share a little bit about what this work has really, you know, meant for you, and what you hope that your sharing your story will do for others, you know, today. So whoever wants to start, please jump in.
Well, I think I could speak on, because I kind of touched on it in the beginning about
Yeah.
the classroom and all that. I just going to the Northern Valley, the school. I just see like the culture that unfolds there. I see Asian Americans, we're 30% of the population in the valley here. And I can see that as the model minority, we're seen as harmless. And I've spoken about this numerous times, but I see an automatic belittling of Asian Americans in the valley as if we're easily manipulated. They assume that most new kids who are Asian don't speak English, don't understand, lower IQ for some reason, which is clearly, illogical thoughts, but it happens and it manifests through that. So I really hope that kind of normalized feeling, diminishes. It gets it because it really. I've been living in the valley for all my life, my entire life. I was born here, raised here, left here. I'm going to leave here in a few. And it's been an ongoing kind of underlying battle. And I hope that kids don't have the same, self-esteem, self-issues that, many of us, I know my peers have gone through. And I hope, that really lessens. And I hope we're taking an actual proactive stance in what's happening in the lives of our peers and underclassmen. Generations come.
Some last pieces of advice that I might give are that, everything you do, every little thing you do as an activist has a ripple effect that you don't even get to see. And that's part of the beautiful part of it is like, we don't do it for validation from other people. As nice as it is to hear from people like, oh, what you said was so meaningful. You're not always going to hear that, but I can promise you what's happening. We've had people come up to us months after some of the events that we've done, weeks afterward, and will tell us like, because I finally saw someone in my sheltered valley speak up against the things that I've been dealing with forever, the things I've been told are normal, the things that I've been told are just jokes, harmless fun. The fact that I'm finally seeing someone speak up and say, no, this is not okay, this is terrible, this is a step back. The fact that I finally saw that gave me the courage to, we've had people come out to their parents because of some of the work we're doing. We've had people, organize their own protests in their own towns. We've had people have hard conversations with their families because of some of the events that we've held. And so even just, if you're living in a really conservative town where you don't see a lot of support for movements like this, just one person stepping up and saying something or organizing a protest or doing just the smallest thing, or even just, calling out a racist joke when it happens, right? Not laughing at it and saying that was not funny. That has such a ripple effect on people. And I can promise you that you have so much power in what you do. And that now's the time to embrace it, right? Like, if not now, when?
Yeah. And going off of both what Rita and Mia said, being that we did do a lot of work with the administration, I feel better knowing that I left my high school feeling like there's going to be change. And it's not even just a feeling like there's going to be change. I know that there's guaranteed change because we've been working with the school hand in hand. And it makes me happier that I've actually stepped up and said something, because not only for the other color students in the building, minorities in general, I have cousins who are going to be, the oldest one is going to be a freshman next school year. And I really just wanted to leave a safe space where he doesn't feel like where he can't feel like he can't speak out. I really wanted to leave a place where my youngest cousin, who is in second grade now, will eventually be in the high school, and she won't have to deal with any of this, because hopefully by that point, the curriculum will have been in the system for so long that she won't have to face any of these prejudice that I had to go through. or that Mia has had to go through, being that that side of my family is more Asian American than my appearance is. So their experience is completely different. And I just know that the work that we've set for groundwork now will have such a ripple effect on them later. And I just can hope for the best that things will be different by the time they're 18. That hopefully we will still have activists speaking out, but it won't be on such a major scale. It'll be more minuscule, like as I said, as Rita had mentioned, like that was racist, like, and they'll be able to do that so comfortably. That's what I'm most grateful for about from BSO to me.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all that you have shared. I know that we had one member of your group who couldn't join us, but sent a statement. Rita, I think it might be a good time for you to share that now.
I think I'm going to ask Taylor to read it because I don't have it open.
Oh, sorry, Taylor. Thanks.
I'll read it word for word. She said, "Hi, my name is Nia Watson. I'd like to thank YWCA of Northern New Jersey for having VSO on their live today. Unfortunately, I'm unable to make it to this interview, but I'd still like to pass on a little message. I'm so proud of how hard my fellow members and I have worked this summer to highlight issues in our community that have been previously overlooked. As a group, and with the help of individuals in our community, we made it our goal to amplify the voices of those who have felt disregarded and silenced, and to further educate those who have opposing views. It's been an incredible learning experience for us and those around us, and we are very excited for the future."
Well, thank you. And we're sorry she couldn't join us, but I'm glad that she sent that message, and thank you for sharing it. Ladies, I just, especially when Taylor was talking before, you triggered something, a memory for me. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to meet Gloria Steinem. And in that conversation with, yes, I kind of had that same reaction. It was hard to get my words together. But I did get the opportunity to ask her a question. And she, a few of us were chosen, in this group that we were with her to ask questions. And I had the opportunity, and I asked her, with all she had to withstand, the negativity, the bashing, her name being all over newspapers and magazines and, on TV, we didn't have social media then, but she was dragged through the mud personally and attacked over and over and over and over again. And, caricatures made of her. And I said, how did you keep going? I think about the work that I do, and listening to you all talk about your experiences, really triggered this for me too. But I think about the work that I do, and it's hard some days, it's hard to keep going. And I'm not doing what she did, like I'm doing it in a different place. So I was curious how she maintained, her run in the marathon of what we're doing, because again, it's not a sprint. This is definitely a marathon, this work. And what she said to me is it was really the connections, the group of people that together were doing this, that although she ended up being, the spokesperson for a lot of it, that there was a group, and that spending time regularly with that group to share the highs, to share the lows, that embrace of having, them together is really what gave her the sustenance to keep going, and helped her recharge and helped her stay focused and helped her realize and understand the impact and importance of what she was doing, and helped her take some time, to get back. And I thought that was, timeless, information. And thinking about, what Taylor had shared about, the attacks that, she's experienced and you've all experienced, but then listening to the bond that you all clearly have, and that you were, created over this work and not over, friendships, initially, but clearly have now, made me think of that. So I wanted to share that story with you, because I do think that part of going the long haul and being an activist is having that circle, and making sure that circle is diverse, and making sure that circle, is with you. So So ladies, stay strong, and know that the YWCA and personally myself, I'm here for you, and we're here for you. We support you. We are grateful for the work that you've done in our community and its impact locally and nationally. And I know that you have impacted and changed lives, and I know you will continue to do so. So thank you for that. For anyone watching, and I know many people watching have must have thought, oh my goodness, I wish so-and-so was watching this. Don't despair, they can watch it. This lives on our Facebook page. It will be on our Instagram page and IGTV. It'll be on our YouTube page. It'll be on the YWCA website under our racial justice page. We encourage you to share this conversation. And I really encourage you to share it with young people in your life. I really encourage you to share it with young people life, because sometimes folks that are in my age group, which is 50, folks in my age group think that, we don't have to talk to kids about this stuff, that if they have something to say that they will come to us and just kind of sit and wait. And, sometimes you really need to create a forum for them, not just expect that they know that, but to create an open space for them to have a conversation. And I know for adults, sometimes it's hard to figure out how to do that, that you don't want to say the wrong thing. And that may be some of the reasons that you don't approach these conversations. Well, showing them this video and hearing these, young people, these activists, these women of strength, that have shared their stories with us today, really will be a wonderful platform for a discussion with the young people in your life. So I do encourage you to share this in that way as well. I also encourage everyone to join our 21-day Racial Equity and Social Justice Challenge. Whether you're youth, whether you're adults, we will put the link in the comments here. We encourage you all to share this with your group. It is a 21-day, 21 business days. You will receive an email from us starting September 9th for everyone who is registered. It will either have a blog post, it'll have a article, it'll have some kind of video, a podcast, something to give you some information about power and privilege and social change and social justice, and a reflection, an opportunity for you to go on your own personal journey. And our goal with our 21-day Racial Equity and Social Justice Challenge is to create activists, but that, everyone will be an activist in their own way. You'll all find your way about what that is and what that means, but that this is an opportunity for you to learn, educate yourself, and join us. So we do encourage you to do this. We encourage you to share it with your networks. We encourage you to share it with your companies, with your faith-based organizations, with the nonprofits you're involved with your families. All the holidays are coming. It's a great way to have discussions around your family tables. Use some of these conversations. So please join us. It launches on September 9th. I also want to tell any young women that are watching, our 10th grade group of Empower University girls will be kicking off in late September. It's a wonderful opportunity. Doesn't matter what school you're from, as long as you're in one of our 5 counties. It's a 10-month experience where you will meet over 60 female mentors over the course of those 10 months when you're a sophomore in high school, and get lots of evidence-based learning on exactly some of what we've talked about today, learning how to trust your voice, grow your voice. And we do encourage you to sign up and share that with the young women in your life. Last 2 things. 1, do your census if you haven't done it yet, folks. This is an opportunity for you. We have just a few more weeks to get the numbers in, get the information in. This is how the resources in our community are given out. And this is our one time in a 10-year span to be able to log who we have living where, and so we know where resources are needed. And not last, definitely not least, vote. We still have an opportunity to be able to register, and definitely make sure that you are learning about the candidates at all different levels. Although this is a presidential election, that is not the only important election that's out there. You need to put people in office that represent your values and are going to vote for you. And then after you do that, you need to remind them what you want them to do. So with that, please commit to all of those. Tomorrow, we hope you join us. The YWCA as many of you know, has committed to share the mic now. On Thursdays, we have been sharing the mic with Black women in our community to amplify their voices. And tomorrow we have a wonderful conversation I'm excited to have with Natalie Waite, who's the Director of Graduate Student Affairs at Stevens Institute of Technology. And she will share about her experience as a Black woman. So I'm looking forward to talking with her. We wish everyone a great day. Stay healthy, stay well, stay active. And ladies, thank you again. Yes, so grateful to all of you and the work you're doing. And best of luck. And keep us posted how we can help. Know we're here for you and always cheering you on.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a good one. Bye.
Be well. Bye-bye, everyone.